The transport ship docked with Orbital Station Proxima 7 at exactly 0800 hours. Inside the massive bay, 300 alien cadets gathered to witness something most thought they would never see. Humans. Real humans from Earth. The legendary Deathworld that existed on the far edge of Council space. Dae-hyun Kim stepped off the transport first, his boots making solid contact with the deck. The station's artificial gravity felt strange to him, lighter somehow, like walking on a soft surface. Behind him came Ji-woo Park, carrying 2 massive equipment cases that should have required a loading cart. She didn't seem bothered by the weight at all. Hyun-Lee followed last, her medical pack secured across her shoulders as she looked around with bright, curious eyes. The alien cadets stared in silence. These humans looked so ordinary. They were bipedal like many species, with 2 arms and 2 legs. Their skin was a strange peachy tan color, and they had hair growing from their heads. Nothing about them screamed danger or superiority. In fact, they looked rather soft and fragile compared to the armored saurians or the crystalline forms of the Vel species. Commander Velthar floated forward, his crystalline body refracting light in 1,000 directions. He was the senior tactical instructor at the Galactic Naval Academy, and his reputation was legendary. He had trained warriors from 60 different species over his 2-century career. "Cadets Kim, Park, and Lee," he said, his voice resonating through the chamber like wind chimes. "Welcome to the Galactic Naval Academy. You are the first humans to attend this institution in 300 years. Many eyes are watching you." Dae-hyun nodded respectfully. "We understand, Commander. We're here to learn and to prove that Earth is ready for integration." A snort came from the crowd. Threx, a large saurian with green scales and sharp teeth, stepped forward. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, his muscular frame impressive even among his own species. "Prove yourselves? You come from a Class 12 Deathworld. Your planet is so dangerous that the Council restricted contact for your own protection. What could you possibly teach us?" Ji-woo set down her equipment cases with a heavy thud that echoed across the bay. Several alien cadets flinched at the sound. "We're not here to teach," she said calmly. "We're here to learn alongside you. But maybe you'll learn something too." Commander Velthar raised one crystalline appendage. "That is enough, Cadet Threx. We are all students here. Now everyone to the assembly hall. Orientation begins in 10 minutes. The crowd dispersed, but not before many of the alien cadets cast doubtful glances at the 3 humans. A small avian cadet named Lisa fluttered past, her feathers ruffling with curiosity. She was fast, one of the quickest cadets in her class, and she wondered if these humans could even keep up during physical training. The assembly hall was enormous, designed to accommodate species of all sizes and environmental needs. Some sections were filled with water for aquatic species. Others had specialized atmosphere controls for those who breathed methane or required higher pressures. The human cadets sat in the standard oxygen-nitrogen section, noting how the gravity still felt lighter than what they were used to. Commander Velthar began the orientation by explaining the Academy's purpose. They trained the best and brightest from across the galaxy to serve as officers in the Galactic Defense Fleet. The training was rigorous, the standards high, and the failure rate significant. Only 40% of cadets who entered would graduate. "This week we begin with basic assessments," the commander explained. "Physical fitness, cognitive aptitude, and technical skills. These tests are standardized across all species, adjusted for your biological capabilities. We use a point system. The average cadet scores between 400 and 600 points. Elite cadets score above 800. After the assembly, the cadets moved to the fitness center. It was time for the physical assessment. The alien cadets were excited to see how these humans would perform. Earth was known for its harsh conditions, but that didn't necessarily mean its inhabitants were physically impressive. The first test was a simple lifting exercise. Each cadet had to lift a standardized weight bar, which adjusted its mass based on the lifter's body weight and species. The goal was to lift twice your body weight. Most cadets managed this with moderate effort. When it was Dae-hyun's turn, he approached the bar. The system scanned him and calibrated the weight. He gripped the bar and lifted it smoothly, his form perfect. The display showed he had lifted 2.5 times his body weight. Respectable, but not extraordinary. Then Threx stepped forward with a confident swagger. As a saurian, he was naturally strong. The bar calibrated to his mass and he lifted it with a roar of effort. The display showed 2.8 times his body weight, the best score so far. Threx grinned at Daehyun, his sharp teeth gleaming. Not bad, human, but strength belongs to the Saurians. Daehyun smiled politely. It's not a competition. We're all on the same side. Next came the endurance test. Cadets had to run on a track for as long as possible. The station's gravity was set to standard, which was 0.7 g, comfortable for most species. The average cadet could run for about 20 minutes before exhaustion set in. Lisa went first, her avian body built for speed. She ran with graceful efficiency for 18 minutes before her breathing became labored and she stopped. Still, it was an impressive performance. Several other cadets took their turns. Most lasted between 15 and 25 minutes. Then it was Hyen's turn. She started at a steady pace, her breathing controlled and rhythmic. At 20 minutes, she showed no signs of slowing down. At 30 minutes, the other cadets began to whisper among themselves. At 45 minutes, she finally stopped. Not because she was exhausted, but because the test administrator said she had already exceeded the maximum score. How? Lisa asked, her feathers fluffed in confusion. You weren't even breathing hard. Hyen wiped her forehead with a towel. The station felt cool to her, almost cold. The gravity here is lighter than what we're used to. On Earth, we have 1.0 g gravity. This feels like running downhill. The alien cadets exchanged confused glances. They didn't understand. This station's gravity was standard. It was considered normal, comfortable. The idea that someone could consider it light was bizarre. Jiwoo noticed equipment being delivered to the training area. Large crates that typically required anti-gravity sleds to move. 3 cadets were struggling to push one crate across the floor. She walked over casually. Need help? She asked. Before they could answer, she grabbed one side of the crate and lifted it. Not pushed. Lifted. She carried it across the room and set it down gently where they needed it. The 3 alien cadets stared at her in shock. That crate weighs 200 kilograms, one of them stammered. It was Braun, a silicon-based life form who processed information slowly but thoroughly. How did you lift it alone? Jiwoo looked at the crate and shrugged. It's not that heavy. On Earth, I worked in my family's construction business during summers. We moved heavier things than this regularly. That evening, the alien cadets gathered in their common areas, discussing the humans in hushed tones. Something wasn't adding up. These humans seemed ordinary, even fragile in appearance. Yet they demonstrated physical capabilities that shouldn't be possible for their size and build. In the human quarters, Daehyun, Jiwoo, and Hyen reviewed their day. They could feel the stares, hear the whispers. They knew many of the alien cadets doubted them, saw them as curiosities rather than equals. They don't understand yet, Daehyun said quietly. They see Earth listed as a death world and think it means we barely survived. They don't realize what it means to be forged by a planet that actively tries to kill you. Jiwoo nodded. Commander Velthar announced a survival exercise next week. On a Class 6 planet, they called it a moderate challenge. Hyen smiled slightly. They have no idea, do they? A Class 6 planet would be considered a vacation resort on Earth. The 3 humans understood something their alien classmates didn't. Earth wasn't just dangerous because of its predators or harsh weather. It was dangerous because everything about it pushed life to adapt or die. The gravity, the oxygen levels, the temperature swings, the geological instability, the aggressive microbial life. Humans didn't just survive Earth. They thrived on it. And soon their fellow cadets would begin to understand why that made all the difference. The dropship descended through thick clouds toward the surface of Kethera 4. Inside, 20 cadets sat in harnesses, checking their equipment one final time. Commander Velthar's voice came through their communication devices, crisp and clear. Kethera 4 is classified as a Class 6 world. Moderate difficulty. You will be divided into teams and dropped at different locations. Your objective is simple. Survive for 5 days and reach the extraction point 200 kilometers from your drop zone. You may use only the standard survival kit provided. No advanced technology. No emergency beacons unless someone is dying. This exercise will test everything you have learned. Good luck. The cadets were divided into 3 teams. Daehyun found himself with Threx, Lysa, and a methane-breathing Vex named Kor. Jiwoo was paired with Braun and 2 aquatic delphinids. Hyen joined 3 fungal colony mycans who communicated through spores and seemed nervous about having a human on their team. The drop was rough. The ship dumped them at their coordinates and left immediately. Daehyun's team landed in a dense forest area. The trees were tall with purple leaves, and the air smelled strange, like copper and flowers mixed together. Threx checked his environmental scanner. Temperature is 15 degrees. Oxygen level at 19%. Atmospheric pressure is within acceptable range, but on the low side. He looked at the others. We need to establish a camp before nightfall. According to the briefing, temperatures dropped to 5 degrees after sunset. Lissa shivered, her feathers fluffing for warmth. 5 degrees? That's freezing. We'll need a heat source and shelter immediately. Kor's translation device crackled to life. The Vex communicated through chemical signals, which the device converted to speech. I will need to conserve my thermal suit's battery. The cold will be difficult for me. They all looked at Daehyun, who was examining the forest around them with interest. He had removed his jacket and was wearing just a thin shirt. This is pretty comfortable, he said. Reminds me of autumn back home. Threx stared at him. You think 15 degrees is comfortable? Without thermal protection? Sure, this is sweater weather where I'm from. Although it might get chilly tonight at 5 degrees. I'll probably need my jacket then. The alien cadets exchanged worried glances. What kind of planet was Earth if this human considered 15 degrees comfortable and 5 degrees merely chilly? They spent the next 2 hours building a shelter. Daehyun worked efficiently, cutting branches and securing the structure with practiced movements. While the others struggled with the physical labor in the thin atmosphere, he showed no signs of difficulty. The oxygen level doesn't bother you? Lissa asked between gasps. Her avian respiratory system was efficient, but even she was feeling the effects of the reduced oxygen. It's a bit thin, Daehyun admitted, like being at high altitude. But humans adapt to it pretty quickly. Our blood carries oxygen very efficiently. As the sun began to set, the temperature dropped rapidly. Threx and Lissa huddled near the small fire they had managed to start. Kor retreated into his thermal suit, which would keep him warm but drain its battery quickly. Daehyun sat slightly away from the fire, apparently comfortable. We need food, Threx said. The survival kits have ration bars for 3 days, but we're supposed to supplement with local resources. I can eat the vegetation here. Lissa, you too. But hunting is not my specialty. Daehyun stood up. I'll handle that. Stay here and keep the fire going. Before anyone could protest, he disappeared into the darkening forest. Threx wanted to call him back, but the human was already gone. 30 minutes later, Daehyun returned carrying something. It was a small animal, similar to a rabbit but with 6 legs and scales instead of fur. It was dead, its neck cleanly broken. Lissa made a sound of distress. You killed it? We need protein, Daehyun said simply. He began preparing the animal with a small knife from his kit, working with obvious experience. Don't worry, there's enough vegetation here for those who don't eat meat. But I do, and I need calories to keep warm and active. Threx watched in fascination and mild horror as the human skinned and butchered the creature, then roasted it over the fire. The smell was actually quite appealing, even to his herbivore sensibilities. You hunt regularly on Earth? Threx asked. I grew up in a rural area. Hunting and fishing were normal. Earth has thousands of species that can kill you, so you learn to be careful. But we also learn to use the resources available. Later that night, while the others slept fitfully, Daehyun took the first watch. He sat comfortably in what the others considered freezing temperature, his eyes scanning the darkness. His hearing picked up sounds the others couldn't detect. Small movements in the brush, the distant call of a predator, the wind shifting through the trees. Meanwhile, Jiwoo's team faced different challenges. They had been dropped near a river system. The delphinids were in their element, happily swimming in the cold water. But Bron, the silicon-based life form, was struggling. His species required direct sunlight to maintain energy, and the thick cloud cover was problematic. I am operating at 40% efficiency, Bron reported slowly. I will need to enter low-power mode overnight to conserve energy. Jiwoo examined their surroundings. The river was fast-moving and cold. They needed to cross it to reach the extraction point, but building a raft would be difficult with Bron's reduced capacity. Let me handle this, Jiwoo said. She began gathering materials with impressive speed and efficiency. While the delphinids watched in confusion, she constructed a simple but sturdy raft in less than 2 hours. When Bron questioned how she could work so quickly, she explained, I'm an engineer, but more than that, I'm used to working with my hands. On Earth, we often had to build things quickly with limited resources. You adapt or you fail, The raft worked perfectly. They crossed the river with Bron safely aboard, and Jiwoo somehow managed to keep the silicon-based Cadet's surface dry so he could absorb what little sunlight penetrated the clouds. Hyun's experience was perhaps the most eye-opening for her teammates. The Mycans communicated primarily through spores, which made verbal communication difficult. But Hyun quickly learned to read their body language and color changes. When one of them began showing signs of illness from a local plant they had consumed, she immediately went into action. Her medical training kicked in, but it was her human immune system and instincts that impressed her teammates most. She identified the toxic plant by smell, something the Mycans couldn't do. Then she found a counteragent growing nearby, again using her sense of smell to locate it. "Your olfactory system is remarkable," one of the Mycans communicated through their translation device. "How can you detect such subtle chemical differences? Humans evolved as omnivores on a planet with countless poisonous plants and animals. We had to develop ways to identify danger, smell, taste, sight. We use all our senses to assess if something is safe." By the third day, all three teams were making progress toward the extraction point. But the planet had more challenges waiting. A storm system moved in, bringing heavy rain and dropping temperatures further. The alien cadets struggled with the harsh conditions. They were cold, tired, and their ration bars were running low. Commander Velthar monitored from orbit with growing interest. The humans were performing far beyond expectations. While their alien teammates struggled, Daehyun, Jiwoo, and Hyun seemed almost energized by the challenges. Then disaster struck. A flash flood came roaring down from the mountains, catching Daehyun's team in its path. The water was icy and violent, tearing through their campsite. Lissa managed to fly to safety. Kor's heavy suit kept him grounded but protected. Threx, however, was caught in the current and swept downstream. Daehyun didn't hesitate. He dove into the freezing water, swimming with powerful strokes that shocked Lissa when she saw them. Humans were supposed to be average swimmers at best. But Daehyun moved through the water like he was born to it, fighting the current with raw strength and determination. He reached Threx, who was injured and struggling. The Saurian was heavy, over twice Daehyun's weight, but the human wrapped an arm around him and began swimming to shore. It took 10 minutes of brutal effort, but he made it, dragging Threx onto solid ground. Threx was conscious but in pain. His leg was broken. Without proper medical care, he wouldn't be able to continue. The extraction point was still 12 kilometers away, and the terrain was rough. Lissa landed beside them, her eyes wide with concern. "We need to call for emergency extraction. Threx can't walk." Daehyun was breathing hard but already assessing the situation. "No, we can make it. I'll carry him." "That's impossible," Kor said through his translator. "The distance is too great and he's too heavy." Daehyun looked at the Saurian warrior who had doubted him from the beginning. "On Earth, my ancestors hunted animals by chasing them for hours until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're built to keep going. 12 kilometers is nothing. Trust me." He fashioned a rough stretcher from branches and fabric. Then he lifted Threx onto his back in a fireman's carry and began walking. The Saurian was indeed heavy, but Daehyun's muscles, forged by Earth's full gravity, handled the weight. His cardiovascular system, evolved to process oxygen efficiently in Earth's demanding environment, kept him going. For 12 kilometers through rough terrain and harsh weather, Daehyun carried his teammate. Lissa flew ahead too. The Academy Medical Bay was unlike anything on Earth. It had separate sections for different biological types, each with specialized equipment designed for species ranging from crystalline to aquatic to gaseous. All cadets who participated in the survival exercise were required to undergo full medical evaluations to ensure they had not suffered any permanent damage. Threx lay in a medical pod designed for Saurians. His broken leg was already healing, accelerated by advanced regeneration technology. The medical staff had told him he would be fully recovered in 3 days. On his homeworld, such an injury would have taken weeks to heal naturally. In the next section, Hyun was undergoing her examination. The medical technician, a multi-tentacled creche named Dr. Ven, was reviewing her scans with increasing confusion. "This cannot be correct," Dr. Ven muttered, his translator device converting his chemical signals into words. "Run the scan again." A junior technician complied, running the full-body scan a second time. The results were identical. "Cadet Lee, are you aware that you have redundant organs?" Dr. Van asked. Hyun looked puzzled. "What do you mean?" You have 2 kidneys, 2 lungs, 2 of several other organs. This is highly unusual. Most species have single organs, with backup functions distributed through their biology. Why would you need 2 kidneys? All humans have 2 kidneys, Jan explained. It's normal for us. If one fails, the other can take over. Same with lungs. We can survive with just 1, but we have 2 for backup. Dr. Ven's tentacles rippled with agitation. That is extraordinarily inefficient from an energy perspective. Maintaining duplicate organs requires significant biological resources. I guess Earth's environment made redundancy necessary. If you only have 1 of something and it gets damaged, you die. With 2, you have a chance. The doctor pulled up more scan results and his confusion deepened. Your bone density is remarkable. 3 times what we would expect for a species of your size and gravity adaptation. And your muscle fiber composition is unusual. You have a mix of fast twitch and slow twitch muscle fibers in ratios we don't typically see. Is something wrong? Jan asked. Wrong? No, nothing is wrong. I'm simply trying to understand. Your body is built like a species expecting constant physical trauma and extreme endurance requirements. Tell me, what is Earth's gravity? 1.0 g. Dr. Ven's tentacles went rigid. 1.0? That's heavy world classification. The standard we use here is 0.7 g. You've been living in light gravity since you arrived. Yes, we noticed. It feels like we're on a moon or something. Very light and bouncy. The doctor made several notes, his scientific curiosity fully engaged now. I need to examine the other human cadets. This is fascinating. Dae-hyun's examination revealed similar surprises. His cardiovascular system impressed the medical staff most. His heart was a powerful muscle capable of pumping blood efficiently even under high stress. His lungs could process oxygen from the air with remarkable efficiency, and his blood cells were packed with hemoglobin. You mentioned carrying Cadet Threx for 12 kilometers, the examining physician noted. That should have been impossible. He weighs over 100 kilograms. The terrain was difficult, yet your body shows minimal strain from the experience. Dae-hyun shrugged. It was hard work, but humans are built for endurance. We're not the fastest or strongest species in any single category, but we can keep going longer than most. It's how we survived on Earth. Jiwoo's examination focused more on her metabolic processes. The doctors were amazed by her digestive system. You can process a wide variety of organic matter, the technician observed. Plants, animal proteins, even some substances that would be toxic to most species in small amounts. Your stomach acid is remarkably strong, and you have an extensive colony of bacterial life in your digestive tract. Gut bacteria, Jiwoo confirmed. They help us digest food and fight off infections. Doesn't everyone have them? Most species have some microbial assistance, but nothing like this. You're essentially a walking ecosystem. And your immune system? The technician paused, reviewing the data multiple times. Your immune system is incredibly aggressive. It attacks foreign substances with remarkable efficiency. You also have something called a fever response. When we get sick, our body temperature rises to kill the infection. Usually a few degrees. That would kill most species. You're telling me your body intentionally overheats itself as a defense mechanism? Pretty much. That evening, Commander Velthar called a special lecture in the main auditorium. All cadets were required to attend. The subject was listed simply as Deathworld Classification and Evolutionary Adaptation. The auditorium filled quickly. Everyone had heard about the medical examination results, and rumors were spreading fast about the human cadets' unusual biology. Threx attended despite his injury, floating on a medical platform. He wanted to hear this. Commander Velthar's crystalline form took the center stage, refracting light dramatically. His voice resonated through the chamber. Today, we discuss something most of you have never experienced personally: Deathworlds. In our galaxy, we classify planets on a scale from Class 1 to Class 12, based on their environmental hazards and difficulty for supporting complex life. A holographic display appeared, showing various planets. Class 1 planets are paradise worlds. Stable climate, gentle weather, few predators, abundant resources. These planets are rare. Most species evolved on Class 3 to Class 5 planets. Moderate challenges, seasonal variations, manageable predator populations. The majority of Council worlds fall into this range. The display shifted to show harsher environments. Class 6 to Class 8 planets are considered difficult. Extreme weather, dangerous predators, unstable geology, or atmospheric challenges. Very few species evolve on these worlds. Those that do tend to be hardy and adaptable. Another shift. The planets shown now looked genuinely hostile. Class 9 to Class 11 planets are designated as Deathworlds. These are planets where almost everything is trying to kill you. Extreme gravity, toxic atmospheres, megafauna predators, catastrophic weather events, geological instability. Life on these planets is a constant battle for survival. Then the display showed Earth, a blue and green marble with white clouds, beautiful and deceptively peaceful. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world, the highest classification we have. Let me explain why. The hologram zoomed in, showing various Earth environments. Earth has a gravity of 1.0 g. This is heavy world classification by our standards. Every movement requires more energy, every step is work, every action builds strength. Humans evolved carrying extra weight every moment of their lives. Lissa's feathers ruffled. She thought about Dae-hyun carrying Threx for 12 kilometers. In Earth's gravity, that would have been even harder. Earth's atmosphere is 21% oxygen. This is dangerously high by galactic standards. Fires burn easily. Oxidation is rapid, but it also means every breath carries more energy. Humans can process this oxygen efficiently, giving them remarkable endurance. The hologram showed Earth's weather systems. The planet has extreme weather variations. Hurricanes with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. Tornadoes, blizzards, floods, droughts. Temperature ranges from -80 degrees to +70 degrees Celsius depending on location and season. The planet is geologically active, with earthquakes and volcanic eruptions being regular occurrences. Commander Velthar paused, letting this sink in. But the truly remarkable thing about Earth is not the physical challenges. It's the biological ones. Earth has the most competitive and aggressive ecosystem we have ever documented. There are an estimated 8 million species on the planet. Thousands of them are specifically evolved to kill and consume other life. Predators with remarkable hunting abilities. Poisonous plants and animals. Aggressive microbial. Life that can kill in days if untreated. The hologram showed various Earth creatures. Lions, sharks, bears, crocodiles, snakes, spiders, even plants like poison ivy. Humans didn't evolve at the top of this food chain. They were prey animals, weak, slow, without natural weapons like claws or venom, so they developed something else. They developed persistence. A video played showing ancient humans hunting. They didn't chase down prey quickly. They followed it for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. Humans are endurance predators. They're not fast, but they never stop. They can regulate their body temperature through sweat, allowing them to keep moving when other animals must rest. They can survive on minimal water. They can eat almost anything, and their bodies can take tremendous damage and keep functioning. Threx remembered Hyun fighting after being shot. He remembered Dae-hyun carrying him despite exhaustion. He was beginning to understand. The medical examinations revealed something fascinating. Human bodies are built for survival through redundancy and adaptability. Multiple organs, aggressive immune systems, powerful cardiovascular capabilities, and a healing factor that is extraordinary by our standards. A broken bone that would take weeks to heal naturally for most species heals in days for humans without technological assistance. Commander Velthar's form seemed to darken, his tone becoming more serious. But perhaps the most dangerous thing about humans is... The alarm woke everyone at 300 hours. Red emergency lights flooded the dormitories as Commander Velthar's voice came through the station-wide communication system. All combat-rated cadets report to Briefing Room 7 immediately. This is not a drill. We have a real situation. Dae-hyun was awake and dressed in 30 seconds. Hyun and Jiwoo were equally fast. They met in the corridor with other cadets who were still rubbing sleep from their eyes. Threx was there too, his leg fully healed now, moving with his usual confident stride. The briefing room was crowded with senior cadets and several instructors. Commander Velthar appeared on the main display screen, his crystalline form shimmering with urgency. 2 hours ago, we received a distress signal from mining colony Hela 7 in the asteroid belt. The colony is under attack by raiders. They have approximately 80 civilian workers and their families. The raiders are demanding their ore shipment and threatening to start killing hostages. A map appeared showing the colony's location. It was a small facility built into a large asteroid, typical of mining operations in the belt. The regular defense fleet is 3 hours away. We're the closest response unit. I'm assembling a strike team of advanced cadets to hold the situation until reinforcements arrive. This will be dangerous. You'll be using training weapons and light armor, because we don't have time to outfit you with full military gear. The raiders are real criminals with real weapons. Murmurs of concern rippled through the crowd. Training weapons were meant for practice. They could stun or incapacitate, but they weren't designed for serious combat. Going against hardened raiders with such equipment was risky. I need volunteers, the commander said simply. Daehyun's hand went up immediately. So did Hyun's and Jiwoo's. Threx raised his claw. Lissa fluttered forward. Braun slowly extended a limb. Within moments, 20 cadets had volunteered. Good, gear up. We launch in 15 minutes. The armory buzzed with activity as cadets suited up. The armor was basic, designed to protect against training accidents rather than real combat. The weapons were stunners with limited charge, meant to incapacitate rather than kill. Several cadets voiced concerns about the inadequate equipment. This is suicide, one cadet muttered. We're going up against real criminals with toys. Daehyun checked his stunner and secured his helmet. Equipment is just equipment. What matters is how you use it and how you think. He looked at the nervous cadet. We're not there to win a fight. We're there to protect civilians and hold out until real help arrives. We can do that. The transport ship made the journey in 40 minutes. During the flight, the team reviewed what they knew. The raiders were a group called the Red Scar Gang, known for hitting soft targets like mining colonies and cargo ships. They usually had 20 to 30 members per operation, all experienced fighters with military-grade weapons. The colony's layout works in our favor, Jiwoo noted, studying the schematics. It's a series of connected tunnels and chambers carved into the asteroid. Narrow passages, lots of corners. That limits their ability to use numbers effectively. The problem is zero gravity, Lisa pointed out. The colony only has gravity in the main habitation areas. Most of the facility is 0G. That favors species with natural flight or better spatial awareness. Then we adapt, Daehyun said. We use the environment to our advantage. They arrived to find the colony's docking bay sealed. The raiders had cut off external access. Jiwoo studied the door for about 10 seconds, then pulled out a maintenance tool from her kit. Give me 2 minutes. She worked quickly, bypassing the door's security system with practiced ease. The door slid open, revealing a dark corridor beyond. The power had been cut to this section. Night vision? Threx asked, activating his helmet's enhancement system. We have something better, Yeon said. She pulled a chemical light stick from her kit and cracked it. The soft green glow illuminated the corridor. Low-tech solution. These don't show up on electronic sensors, and humans have pretty good low-light vision naturally. They moved into the colony in tactical formation. Daehyun took point with Threx. Lisa scouted ahead using her natural flight in the 0G sections. The rest of the team followed, weapons ready. The first sign of trouble came quickly. They found 3 colony workers hiding in a storage room, injured and terrified. Hyun immediately began treating them while the others secured the area. The raiders came in fast, one worker said, wincing as Hyun bandaged his arm. Maybe 30 of them. They have military weapons, body armor. They rounded everyone up in the main hab area. Said they'd start killing people if we didn't cooperate. How many total hostages? Daehyun asked. About 70 people. Workers and their families. Children too. That made everyone tense. The presence of children changed everything. The team had to be even more careful. They moved deeper into the colony, following the tunnel system toward the main habitation area. The raiders had set up a perimeter, but they were overconfident, not expecting any real resistance this far from regular patrol routes. The first encounter happened in a 0G junction. 2 raiders floated on guard duty, their weapons holstered as they talked casually. They never saw the strike team coming. Daehyun and Threx moved in perfect coordination. In 0G, the human used the walls to push off, building momentum, then struck the first raider with controlled force. The stunner did its job. The raider went limp, unconscious. Threx took the second one out a moment later. 2 down, Lisa reported from her scouting position. But there's a group of 5 ahead and they're more alert. Can you draw them away? Daehyun asked. I can try. Lisa flew through the corridors, deliberately making noise. The raiders heard and pursued, leaving their position. It was a mistake. They entered a narrow tunnel where their numbers meant nothing. The strike team was waiting. The fight was brief but intense. Training weapons against real guns should have been a mismatch. But the cadets had advantages the raiders didn't expect. They knew the colony layout better. They worked as a coordinated team. And they were faster and more disciplined. Jiwoo disabled 2 raiders by shorting out their armor's power systems with an improvised electrical charge. Bron's silicon-based body absorbed several shots without significant damage, allowing him to close distance. Hyun stunned 1 raider who made the mistake of ignoring her, thinking she was an easy target. But it wasn't perfect. A raider's shot grazed Threx, burning through his light armor. He roared in pain but kept fighting. Another shot hit Hyun in the shoulder, and she went down hard. That's when the alien cadets saw something that would stay with them forever. Hyun, bleeding from her shoulder, didn't retreat. She didn't call for help. She looked at her wound, assessed that it wasn't immediately fatal, and then got back up. Her eyes had changed somehow, become harder, more focused. She threw herself at the raider who shot her, moving with sudden speed. Her training in hand-to-hand combat took over. She disarmed him and knocked him unconscious with efficient, brutal movements. Then she calmly applied pressure to her own wound and continued with the mission. "Hyun, you're injured," Lissa said, shocked. "You need treatment. I'll treat myself when this is over. Right now we have civilians who need help more than I do." The team pushed forward, taking out raiders in small groups. The criminals were experienced fighters, but they had never faced anything like this. These weren't regular soldiers. These were young cadets who fought with a desperation and intensity that was unnerving. Dae-hyun was particularly terrifying in close combat. In the narrow corridors, where weapons were less effective, he used earth-trained martial arts and simple physics. His movements were efficient, wasting no energy. Every strike had purpose. The raiders started to fear him, this human who kept coming no matter what they threw at him. They reached the main habitation area where the hostages were being held. This was the hard part. The remaining raiders had barricaded themselves inside with the civilians. Any assault would risk innocent lives. "We need a distraction," Dae-hyun said. "Something to get their attention away from the hostages." "I have an idea," Jiwoo said. "But it's risky," she explained her plan. It involved overloading the colony's backup power system to create a controlled explosion in a section far from the hostages. The noise and confusion would draw the raiders' attention, but someone would have to stay near the explosion point to manually trigger it and then escape. "I'll do it," Jiwoo said. "Too dangerous," Threx objected. "You could be killed." "Then I better not mess it up." She disappeared into the maintenance shafts carrying her improvised explosive device. 10 minutes later, her voice came through their communicators. "In position. Give me the signal when ready." Dae-hyun positioned the team at multiple entry points to the habitation area. When everyone was ready, he gave the signal. The explosion was spectacular. It rocked the entire colony section. Not enough to cause real damage, but enough to make everyone think something catastrophic had happened. The raiders panicked, many of them rushing toward the explosion site. The strike team moved in immediately. With most of the raiders distracted, the remaining guards were outnumbered. The fight was quick. The cadets secured the hostages and disarmed the remaining criminals just as Commander Velthar's voice came through. "Defense fleet is on approach. Well done, cadets. Secure the area and prepare for cleanup crews." Jiwoo emerged from the maintenance shafts covered in D 3 days after the raid. Life at the academy seemed to return to normal. Classes resumed, training exercises continued, and the cadets went about their routines. But something had changed. The human cadets noticed it in the way others looked at them now. Some gazes held respect, others held fear, and a few held something darker, something calculating. Jiwoo was working in the engineering lab, repairing a damaged sensor array from one of the training ships, when she noticed something odd. The data core she was fixing had files that shouldn't have been there. Classified files hidden behind several layers of security that had been damaged when the core malfunctioned. She should have reported it immediately and sealed the core. But curiosity got the better of her. She was an engineer, after all, and engineers like to understand how things worked. She carefully extracted the data, routing it through isolated systems to avoid triggering any alarms. What she found made her blood run cold. The files contained decades of reports about Earth and humanity, survey data, biological assessments, psychological profiles. But more disturbing were the internal council communications, messages between council members discussing Earth's status, and they weren't discussing it as a planet in need of protection. They were discussing it as a threat to be contained. Jiwoo copied everything to a secure chip and went to find Dae-hyun and Yan. She found them in the training hall. where Dae-hyun was teaching Threx and several other cadets some basic Earth martial arts techniques. "We need to talk," Ji-woo said quietly. "Somewhere private now." They found an empty observation room and sealed the door. Ji-woo pulled out her data chip and projected the files onto the wall display. "I found these by accident, but once I started reading, I couldn't stop. The Council has been lying to us. They've been lying to everyone. The files told a disturbing story. 30 years ago, when humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel and made contact with the Galactic Council, the initial reports had been positive. Humans were seen as resourceful, intelligent, and potentially valuable members of the galactic community. But then the biological assessments came back. Council scientists studied human physiology, psychology, and history. What they found terrified them. "Listen to this," Ji-woo said, reading from one report. "Humanity represents a potential Class A threat to galactic stability. Their evolutionary adaptations to Earth's extreme environment have produced a species uniquely suited for combat operations. Combined with their aggressive expansion patterns, tool-using intelligence, and psychological resilience, humans could theoretically dominate military affairs if given access to advanced technology and tactical training." Hyun leaned closer to read another section. This one is from a Council military analyst. It says that a single human unit could potentially outperform 3 standard alien units in combat effectiveness. They base this on historical data from Earth's own wars. Dae-hyun's expression was dark as he scrolled through more files. "They classified Earth as a Class 12 Deathworld not to protect us but to contain us. The isolation wasn't for our benefit. It was because they were afraid. The evidence was damning. For 3 decades, the Council had maintained the Deathworld classification, despite knowing that humanity was fully capable of operating in galactic society. They had restricted human access to advanced technology, limited contact with other species, and kept Earth essentially quarantined." "But why?" Hyun asked. "Why agree to the exchange program now? Why let us come here if they wanted to keep us isolated?" Ji-woo pulled up another set of files. "Politics. There's a faction within the Council that wanted to prove humanity wasn't as dangerous as the assessments suggested. They pushed for the exchange program as a test. They expected us to fail, to prove that humans couldn't integrate successfully. That would have justified continued isolation permanently. They wanted us to fail," Dae-hyun said slowly, understanding dawning. "The survival exercise on a Class 6 planet, the raid where they sent us with training weapons, they were setting us up to fail or die, and either outcome would have served their purpose. But we didn't fail," Hyun said. "We succeeded, and now they have a bigger problem." The door suddenly opened. Commander Velthar stood in the entrance, his crystalline form refracting the light in sharp angles. The 3 humans tensed, unsure if he was friend or foe. "I was wondering when you would discover the truth," the commander said, his voice carrying a note of what might have been sadness. "May I enter?" They nodded cautiously. The commander floated in and sealed the door behind him. "I know about the classified files. I know you found them, Cadet Park. The question is, what do you intend to do with this information?" "That depends," Dae-hyun said carefully. "Are you part of the conspiracy to keep Earth isolated?" Commander Velthar was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his words heavy with old regret. "I voted against your planet's isolation 30 years ago. I was part of the minority on the Council who believed humanity deserved a chance to join the galactic community freely. But I was outvoted. The fear was too strong." "Fear of what?" Ji-woo demanded. "We're not monsters. We're not trying to conquer anyone. We just wanted to be part of something bigger than ourselves." "I know, but you must understand the perspective of species who evolved on gentler worlds. Most galactic civilizations developed in relatively peaceful conditions. War is rare among us. We have conflicts, yes, but not the kind of total warfare that Earth has experienced. When the Council reviewed human history, they saw thousands of years of almost constant conflict. They saw weapons development that progressed from simple tools to nuclear devices in mere centuries. They saw a species that invented ways to kill itself more efficiently every generation. We also invented art, music, medicine, philosophy," Hyun protested. "We're not just weapons, I know that too. But the Council saw what they feared most. A species that could fight, a species that was good at fighting. And most terrifying of all, a species that could teach others to fight better." Threx's voice came from the doorway. He had entered silently, followed by Lisa and Braun. "We heard everything," the Saurian said. "Commander, is it true?" Has the Council been lying about Earth? Commander Velthar turned to face them. Yes, and now you all know the truth. The question is what happens next? Lissa flew forward, her feathers ruffled with agitation. This is wrong. The humans have done nothing but help us. They saved lives during the raid. Daehyun carried Threx 12 kilometers to safety. Hyun fights even when injured. Jiwoo solves problems nobody else can solve. They're heroes, not threats. Many would agree with you, the commander said. But there are powerful council members who see only danger. They will use any excuse to maintain Earth's isolation, and if they cannot isolate humanity, they will find other ways to limit your species' influence. Like what? Daehyun asked. Economic restrictions, technology limitations, population controls. There are many tools available to those who fear change. Jiwoo stood up, her expression determined. We have evidence of the conspiracy. We could expose it. Force the council to admit the truth. You could try, Commander Velthar agreed. But evidence can be denied, buried, explained away. You would need something more powerful than documents. You would need proof that cannot be dismissed. What kind of proof? Hyun asked. The commander's form seemed to brighten with what might have been a smile. You would need to demonstrate beyond all doubt that humanity can integrate successfully into galactic society. Not just as soldiers, but as leaders, as teachers, as partners. How? Daehyun asked. There is a final test at this academy, the Crucible. It is a combat simulation designed to be impossible. No cadet team in the academy's history has ever completed it. It uses adaptive AI, extreme environmental conditions, and psychological warfare. Most teams quit within 24 hours. The longest any team has lasted is 53 hours out of 72. You want us to try it? Jiwoo said, not just try. Complete it. If you can do what no team in history has done, you will prove that humans can excel even in the most demanding circumstances. You will prove that Earth's classification as a death world produced not monsters but champions. Threx stepped forward. If they do this, I want to be on their team. So do I, Lissa added. As do I, Braun said slowly. The humans have shown me what true resilience means. I wish to stand with them. Commander Velthar looked at the mixed group of humans and aliens standing together. This is what the Council fears most. Not human strength alone, but humans inspiring others, teaching them, making them better than they thought they could be. Will they let us attempt the Crucible? Daehyun asked. Counselor Vreen has already demanded it. He is the leader of the isolation faction. He wants to prove that humans will fail when pushed to true limits. He believes the Crucible will break you and your failure will justify permanent restrictions on Earth. He's using us, Jan said. Yes, but we can use his arrogance against him. If you succeed, he will have no grounds to continue the isolation policy. The evidence of human capability will be undeniable. And if we fail, Jiwoo asked, then Earth remains isolated. Perhaps forever. The pressure on me and others who support integration will be enormous. We might be forced to accept even harsher restrictions. The three Ho,